Hello, welcome everyone. I hope you're having a nice and relaxed Sunday. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is the first NYT Sunday session of the year. I am Marisol Spensieri. I am an NYT member from Argentina. I'm also part Italian. I have curated this event called Offshore and I will be hosting it too from my bedroom in London. I'm sure we will have people watching from many places. So please leave a comment telling us where you're tuning in from. And also you can write like comments throughout the event. And for us, it's really nice to hear what everyone has to say and what everyone thinks about the performances tonight. So we have an amazing lineup of artists ready to perform from their houses all around the UK. There is a lot of talent in this Zoom call right here. But first, before we kick off, I want to tell you a bit about how this event came about and the idea of it. I personally wanted to address the lack of representation and also misrepresentation of migrants in theatre, and to create mainly a space for migrant performers who have decided to either leave their country of origin to come to the UK or who have left the UK to go somewhere else in the world. We usually don't hear these voices and these stories on stage, so I thought it was a relevant moment in British history to do this kind of event. We especially don't hear stories from immigrants who are living in the UK, despite having a huge amount of us, people like me who come from the other corner of the world to settle in the UK. And we also have so many cultures in this country. So that's what this is for. This is to celebrate all of that, to make us seen and heard, and to show our creativity. And as well, as I said, we are going through a very particular time also in the political context, with a government that I think encourages narratives and policies against immigrants. And we also had Brexit and no freedom of movement for the first time this year. So I wanted to kick off 2021 celebrating migration and internationalism. So today you're going to hear original pieces from performers, as I said, who are tuning in from around the UK and in many languages as well, because we got bilingual pieces, which I think is super exciting. I wish we would have more multilingual plays in theatres and on stages. And we got stories that come or are related to Africa, to Asia, and all around Europe. Unfortunately, we didn't have any submissions from Latin America, so I guess I'm going to act as some sort of representative. And yeah, also to break the ice and to wait for a little bit until everyone tunes in to YouTube and connects and everything. I will share a very short piece which I wrote recently in English and Spanish, and I consider it still a work in progress. It's not finished, but I thought it was relevant to share for today's session. So here it goes. It's an untitled spoken word piece. It took me a while to understand that I was denying myself to be from where I'm from. I was pretending to be someone I'm not. Luckily, not for long. And then I also realized maybe this is a byproduct of what they did to us back then and also now, to feel the shame of the ones who come from the other side of the world like us, the low world, the third in rank. I thought we all lived in one. I did not want to be us. But I am. I don't fit in anything else, at least from their categories. And that's what they want. Always making you wish to go higher, to reach the cultured, undeniable right way of things. But when my body and my thoughts get close to them, well, get off. What is this? A Latina trying to be part of us? From Argentina, even worse. Exotic accent, doesn't know where she goes. She looks too white, too European to make us look good. And so I wonder. I go in circles thinking, where am I actually from? It's hard to admit, but baby, I was born and raised there. It's written on my skin, on my speech, in my taste. And what do they even care? Just listen to what I have to say. ¿Cómo te explico mi identidad si todos los términos son ajenos? Si todas las palabras no son mías, son de alguien más. Sé la protagonista de tu historia, me tiran. Y todo lo demás, ¿dónde está? Thank you. Gracias, gracias, in all the languages that we can. Thank you, and I will pass on to our first performer, who is Dalamusi, and who will be performing the poem 2010. Here we go.
I had so many emotions that day, you know? Excited, nervous, and utterly dumbfounded as I took a seat on that plane I mounted, and for 10 hours we are way up in the clouds, and it's such a peaceful sight. The irony. Oh, I'm scared of heights. I remember being sat by the window when the pilot announced that he's preparing for landing, and the plane takes a nosedive through the thick fog, immersing, and as it emerges, my eyes feast on such foreign views. I shout, "Mama, Mama!" That's the countryside. Just like on Sky News. I mean, at least I knew a thing or two. I'd be way more anxious if I didn't have a clue, but I still had so many questions in my head. Like, who will I become? Will I fit in? Or will I stand out? Nyango usiri kuziva kwauri kuenda. Ramba uchinamata. Usakanganwe kwawabva. Even though you don't know where this journey is going to take you, always pray and never forget where you come from. My grandma said. So when they ask you, where do you come from? Zimbabwe. Oh, Zimbabwe. Isn't that where Mugabe? Yeah, true. But now you have another name to associate that place to. Igama lami Dalamusi. Wena? Thank you.
That was amazing. Thank you so much. Great performance, and also the theme of your piece is amazing, because I think we all remember that flight, you know, the first flight. It's such an intense moment.
Yeah, I remember it like it was yesterday, literally.
Yeah, so it was so beautiful. Thanks so much.
No, thank you, thank you.
You want to add anything?
No, I think you've literally just said it. Yeah, so basically the piece is just an extract of my thoughts and memories of my very first memories while moving to this country. So everything that was going on in my head at the time, and that's basically what 2010, the poem, is about.
Amazing. It spoke for itself. Thank you so much. We'll now pass on to Campbell, who will be performing the poem Her Hands.
I grasp her hands. They feel dry and hot, yet somehow comforting. I can feel the years of experience flooding back to me. I stare into her eyes. Her eyes are forever shifting. The dryness of the desert passes through them until it is met by the waves fighting over the coast. I can hear the clitter-clatter of urban life. Drums sound in the distance and bustling humans moving to and from. And I'll never know their destination. I can smell the fresh fish combined with salty sea air dangling next to my nose. I look up to feel the hot sun beating down on me. I look down to watch a small stream of water slowly bringing life to spiritless land. I gaze into her face. I see all the things I expect to see and more. I see warmth, compassion, and freedom. But I also see shame, greed, and loneliness. I know where I am. It is the place where I am free. She has waited for me. Africa knows I am home. Thank you.
Ooh, bravo, that was amazing. Thanks so much. So many lovely images in that poem. And I found it so interesting that you talk about it being your home. Sometimes home is not really where we're born, is where we died or where we grow up.
For me, I've lived in a few places in Africa over my life, and it's weird because I moved around a lot as a kid, and so I've really, my homes have changed, and so it's a bit, but that sort of piece was about when I was living in Mozambique, so yeah.
Beautiful. Thanks so much. Thank you, Campbell. We're gonna pass on to Elaine, who will be performing the monologue Light.
Olive, hazel beige, smoky grey, brick red, all of them pressed flat, saturated with colour and neatly condensed. Sleek, dark green lines separate the colours into shapes, and the shapes become smaller and smaller until I see a palette. I fancy taking a brush from the new Urban Decay makeup I bought, so white and new and soft. Stroke the dusty olive of the farmland and brush it against the even softer cloud, the stiff hairs of the brush curving and flexing through the cloud's woolly white curls. In swift, sweeping strokes, I paint the clouds. Then I dip my brush into the ocean and twirl the brush against the whole earth so the colours swirl into a pearly black. When I was little, my dad, who read physics at university, told me that when a plane takes off, for the tiniest of the tiniest sliver of time, you are completely weightless. So here I am today, in a plane, trying to pin down this precise moment of weightlessness before it passes me by. I sit in my disconcertingly right-angled seat, trying to figure out if my present now is before or after the point of this weightless vanishing. To my dad's pleasant surprise, I am not a physicsy person, but I imagine this extraordinary moment of brief weightlessness as being sort of like throwing all of you, the weight of the cells, the cytoplasm, all the information they contain, your thoughts, your emotions, your memories, the bundle of all that is you up into the void and then catching it again. Like that game when you throw a ball in the air and clap as many claps as you can while the ball drops. I want to see if I can catch myself in this precise moment of weightlessness, to perceive myself disappear, then reappear. So I wait. Senses alert, feeling the plane window press against my forehead, feeling my sore right back and empty stomach and bloated calves as the plane races off the ground. I don't want to miss my flash of weightlessness as the plane takes off. Wait, did I miss it? I imagine the moment of weightlessness to be so brief that it passes you by before you have the chance to perceive it. I'm so super focused now on the passing of time that I feel like I'm actually wearing the membrane of time out. I wonder if by zooming in on time as I'm doing now, I am tapping into more of it, kind of like how the measurement of a coast's length increases and increases the more you zoom in. I imagine that game again with the ball, where you throw, clap, and catch. I imagine a film strip now depicting the ball's arc as it moves through time. I could add an infinite number of frames to the film to make the movement smoother, but I wonder what actually animates the separate frames into a smooth movement. What makes time out of stillness? Again, I am not a physicsy person. I am a hungry person. I am a hungry person inside a plane on her way to university for the first time. I am a hungry, non-physicsy person thinking about her dad and time and her new university waiting at the end of the plane's arc. But mostly, I am a bored, bloated, hungry person. So I wonder about the ingredient of time, because I could really do with some more time. And no matter how hard I try, time just won't stretch. I could do a play that fits 10 years into 60 minutes, but at the end of the day, those 60 minutes will pass by in 60 minutes. No, I need a way to imbue time from within its membrane, to pack my present moment with all the past moments that passed me by too quickly. I wonder if there's a way to make myself small enough to slip through time's membrane and get lost in it. Or maybe I could make time smaller. I imagine being in some sort of a weird biology lab, dissecting time so finely that I can identify each still moment. I would render each of those moments motion by living them again and again, remembering moments again and again. I would stretch time out like adding more frames to a film strip. Dear audience members who were kind enough to come along my stream of hungry consciousness, the original monologue stops here. Now, exactly now, with 3 years after I was in the plane writing all of these random thoughts down, eyes looking out the window and fingers tapping away in the notes section of my phone. I am rather embarrassed by how long and totally senseless all of this writing was. So I promptly start to fact check all the things I've just read. Is it true that you're weightless for a moment when a plane takes off? And you see, it's not. Apparently, you are not briefly weightless when you fly unless you're in space. But I also find out something really interesting. You see, you can be weightless while still being alive. You can be weightless at the very center of the earth. At the very center of the earth, for a very brief moment, you can fly.
Thank you. Woo. Thank you so much. Wow. That is a very moving monologue. I love how you explore the theme of time. Yeah, throughout the flight, I mean, how many things can pass through our mind? And I think it's also really interesting that you came back to it sometime afterwards, 3 years afterwards, and recap with it, reconnect with it. You want to tell us a bit more about you and the story?
Yeah, sure. So I was born in Korea, grew up in England, and now go to university in the States. So there's been a lot of flying around in my life. Obviously not now because of COVID. And this was written, as I said in the monologue, when I was flying from London to Boston to go to university. And I remember wanting to grasp that very specific time because it felt very important to my life. And I think thanks to Offshore, I got a chance to sort of return to it and relive it. And I'm glad that I got to share it with everybody today.
That's amazing. We're glad you got to be part of this and here with us. So thank you so much for sharing it.
Thank you.
We are going to now pass to Sean, who will perform the monologue Here I.
This is my story. This is a map of my life, the map of the world where nowhere ever completely feels like home. In Welsh, we have a word so unique that it can't be translated into English. Hiraeth. It loosely translates to a longing for a home that no longer exists. Hiraeth has pulled at me all my life. It's been in my heart all my life. It's always been there. But to me, Hiraeth doesn't mean a longing for a home that no longer exists. Hiraeth means a longing for somewhere to feel like home. I was born in 1996 in Kamakura, Japan. This was normal for me. Japan was my world. I spoke Japanese and had an American accent. I thought I was Japanese. It was a time in my life where my family and I were most happy. I was a kid. I was happy. My parents would pick us up from school, take us to Yokohama Country Club, and we would eat chicken in a basket and swim in the pool. Looking back, what I miss most was the beautiful Japanese sakura tree in our back garden. When I turned 7, my parents moved us to North Wales, where my family are originally from, so my mum could get a teaching degree. My life completely changed, and I never saw Japan again. I went from living on the other side of the world to my grandparents, auntie and uncle and cousins, to living next door to them, which I loved. But time with my parents massively reduced. My dad became head of IB, and my mum would spend hours and hours in the attic working for her degree, drinking cans of Red Bull. Looking back, what I miss most was spending Christmas as a whole family. Just before I started year 8, my parents told us we were moving to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. This is a part of my life I like to ignore. I lived in a compound surrounded by walls, bomb detectors and sand. I was being bullied, I was isolated, and I was lonely. My dad was hardly around, working so hard for us, and then he had a heart attack. As a young woman going through puberty in Saudi Arabia, you had to oppress your womanhood. I couldn't acknowledge myself. I had to cover up, and I got spat on purely because I was a blonde white woman. Like every other woman there, I had no voice. I don't miss anything from here. Sawadika. In 2013, my family and I escaped to Bangkok, Thailand. We were free. I felt free. I literally found the most amazing friends who pulled me out of this dark hole that Saudi Arabia put me in. They introduced me to Thai culture, to the Thai Water Festival Songkran, to Thai theatre and lychees. It was amazing. I found some sweets that I used to eat as a kid in Japan. I was finally back into a similar culture I was born into. But when I was 18, I decided to come to the UK for university to pursue acting. And I never realised back then how I was giving up my life abroad with my parents to study here. I went from living on the other side of the world to my parents. And then I went from living with my parents on the other side of the world in Thailand to living on the other side of the world to them. And I've been living on the other side of the world from them for 6 years now. And I've never felt like I don't belong anywhere as much as I do now. People are my home, not the place. And when I have to say goodbye to someone I care about, a bit of my home disappears. When my nan died, who kept me close to my Welsh roots, I lost a big part of myself and a big part of my home. Travelling and moving has always been a big part of my life. I don't know any different. But since COVID, I feel as though my wings have been cut off. And I've never felt like I'm not myself as much as I have this past year. Hiraeth has been heaviest in my heart this past year. I haven't seen my parents in over a year now, and I don't know when I'll see them again. And I haven't been to Thailand in over 3 years now, and I have no idea when I'll be able to go out there again. But knowing Bangkok, it'll probably have completely changed. Growing up as a third culture kid, moving and travelling around, you develop a defence mechanism as to not get too close to people or used to places, as you know you'll have to say goodbye at some point. I like to say I'm like a shark. I keep moving forward. Hiraeth pulls me forward.
Wow. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that story with us. That was so lovely.
There was a noise in the background and I got really distracted at one point. I live next to really busy roads, so I heard a honk and then I was like, where was I?
It's all part of it. We're all living in this weird situation, just performing from our bedroom, so that's completely fine. We didn't hear anything, so don't worry. No one knows. It's a secret between us.
Yeah.
And yeah, do you want to add something to say something else about the story or yourself? Feel free.
Well, no, I think I said all of it, to be honest. Yeah, I'm originally from North Wales and I grew up all around the world. And you know, it's really nice hearing everyone else's stories because it's not often you meet people that are similar to you, that haven't lived where they were brought up. They will live where they're from, sorry.
Yeah, and yours is, wow, such an incredible story, literally. Just out of curiosity, do you still speak Japanese?
No, I've completely forgotten it. I left when I was 7.
Oh.
And then because no one else obviously spoke it to me as I moved back to Wales. So yeah, I'm trying to learn Welsh now, so hopefully I can actually speak more than one language.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Sean.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. We're going to pass on to Nadi, who will be performing the poem Immigrant.
Green hilly lands, graceful lakes, grabbing my attention. This is Bulgaria, a land full with so much dedication, a beautiful nation. But let me tell you a revelation. My parents grew up in desperation, a search for a new beginning that was their only way of winning. Young, naive, and innocent, I didn't really understand the process. I am an immigrant, and I'm not ashamed by it. I love my country, but sometimes it feels like straight imprisonment. Corruption fleets like a disease, and you wonder why we leave. Everywhere you look around the world, there is a big difference between the Western and the Eastern world. Testing my nationality, ethnicity, all stressing me, especially when they fail to see me for me. Growing up in London changed me for the better. I am surrounded by different cultures, ethnicities, races, and religions, all contributing so much to this city. Being bilingual is a gift of pleasure. I'll continue any measure to continue this treasure. My name is complex, but it holds history. Nadezhda means hope, like a new discovery. And that's what I hold close to my heart, my family. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful words. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And it's such a relevant piece as well. I think some of the things you touched there, exploring your identity, the identity of your name, which is so important to us. And I think is as a performer, you know, it's really important also to keep our original names and to not try to. Sometimes I feel like we feel pressurized to in and to have an English name or whatever. So it's beautiful how you talk about your roots and your name.
Thank you so much.
Is there anything else you would like to say about your story or your inspiration?
I would just say it's a personal story, you know. I think I think you pretty much said it all. I mean, embracing your identity, where you come from, super important. Not to forget your roots as well. And yeah, just be proud of who you are always.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Nadi. We are going to pass on to Olivia, who will perform the monologue, How to Order a Coffee.
Hi, how are you? Can I please have one tall Americano with coconut milk and 2 sugars, please? I mean, like, if you don't have any coconut milk, it's completely fine. You can use oat, soy, almond. Yeah? Thank you. What an idiot. No, to jest durne. Isznoja do burgery. Isznoja. Hi, can I have one tall Americano with any non-dairy milk, please, and 2 sugars? Thank you. Not type! Hi, one Americano with any milk and 2 sugars, please. Ta. I mean, have you ever felt that way when you thought you needed to change yourself, your personality, completely for other people? Like complete strangers. It's so weird, right? I mean, it's completely normal to want to fit in sometimes, and it's normal to feel fragile. I mean, that's what other people tell me, really. But if other people are telling me these things, it must be true, right? Apparently, it makes us human. But does it though? Thank you.
Thanks so much. That was so powerful. Such a relatable piece as well. I think at the beginning, all these little struggles we go through when we move somewhere new, and all of what those emotions that brings up, and the feeling of trying to fit in. You're gonna tell us a bit about your story, or
Yeah, sure. Basically, so when I came to the UK, like almost 6 years ago now, I was just so scared of such little things like ordering a coffee. So I remember I would just be standing in the queue and completely like rehearsing every word I would say as a barista. And I would literally take it so seriously, but at the same time, I thought it's really silly, but I need to kind of write it down. So I started writing these little thoughts, little events that were happening to me every single day. And I was like, and I thought I'm gonna use it one day, and here I am using it. So it was beneficial at the end.
you use them brilliantly. Thank you for doing it.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's super relatable. I had some very similar experiences with this, and ordering not only coffee, in every aspect of life basically. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. And next up we got Anna, who will be performing the monologue Dear Megan. Oh, sorry, Anna, we are missing you. You're on mute. That's cool.
I'm so sorry, Zoom was.
Cool.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
That's it. That's enough. It's time to go. I have had it up to here with people complaining about the weather. The same circles of people I've known since I was 5, gossiping about each other and whose boyfriend will what on which night. And God forbid someone should say, no, sorry, actually, I don't want to come out to the local club with you on a Saturday night because actually, I'd rather get up in the morning and go on a bike ride than stand around in the freezing cold until 3 a.m. waiting for you to get drunk enough to muster up the courage to talk to the boy that you've fancied for 2 years. Look, sorry. It's not that I don't like it here. I do. The UK will always be home, and there's nothing more I love than blue-skied London summers and the quiet rocking of boats on the Thames at night as the city rushes on by. It's just that I've had enough. For now, I want to escape the clutches and preconceived ideas that everybody around here has of me. I want to see something else. I mean, surely there's more to life than just this. Anyway, I'm leaving. I've booked a flight and found an apartment in the Netherlands, in a little city called Groningen. It's cute. They say the bikes there outnumber the people, and all the streets are cobbled and canals run alongside the roads. And at winter, they decorate the sails of their boats with colourful, twinkling Christmas lights. And the lakes freeze over, and the people in the neighbourhoods go skating on it. It looks like a toy town. You'd like it. And, you know, they speak really good English too, so I won't be completely lost. But I love you. And this place will always be home. It's just that I want something else. I don't know exactly why. I can't find a word. I've grown. And it's time for me to go. Thank you.
Thanks, Anna. That was so beautiful. Wow, I picture so beautifully those, life-changing decisions and, the tricky conversations we have to have with our loved ones, which is part of growing up, as you say in the piece. Would you like to say something about your experience of going abroad?
Yeah, so my parents are both immigrants. My dad is Irish and my mum is Polish German, but I was raised here in London. And this piece is basically about me going off to university. I decided to study in the Netherlands just because, as you can tell by the piece, I kind of had enough of it here as much as I love it. And I think the piece really explores friendships and like the difference between like close friends, for example. So this is aimed at one of my best friends who we're still best mates, but it's just differences that we have with people that we really love, and sharing that, and sometimes the frustration that can amount to that, even though the love is there. And also I think the piece tries to explore kind of the stimulant to a lot of migration, which is the grass is greener out somewhere else, or sunnier in my case. Yeah, so I tried to explore that, and maybe the naivety of an 18-year-old wanting to look for adventure somewhere else.
Yeah, you could totally feel that. It was a very moving piece. Thank you so much for sharing it with us today. I will pass on to Nicole, who will be performing the poem Our Nest.
Humans, creatures in need of a pack, a community, togetherness. A human taken from their nest is lost. Where are you from? Why are you here? Does your mum pay taxes? Is your mum on benefits? Is she lazy? Where's your dad? So you weren't born here. Xero. I knew it wasn't my home. I felt like it wasn't. Ya dime dame. Because you deserve to be, she said. Because you deserve to have the best possible education I can provide you with. Because you deserve to have the best possible future I can provide you with. Do it for her, I thought. Do it for your mother. And do it for your past self. Show her you're listening to her dreams, and do it for your future self. Tell her you're arriving with enough courage and knowledge to conquer the world. Do it for you. Yadon babasu, yadin muderasu, yadon aftosu. Scream that you're here. Ime dame. You're ready. Ime edimi. Give them your heart. Igardia. Elate. Inedigisu. I want to learn and I want to belong. I want to go on walks and feed the ducks and complain about the rain and discuss what's in our sandwiches at lunch and sing along to ABBA at parties. I want to listen to your stories about your childhood and how growing up in the forest was like, and tell you what growing up in the sand was like. I want the whole world to be my nest. I want the whole world to be your nest, our nest, all of our nest. A big nest with the same sky, the same stars, the same sun and moon and universe. A big nest with different cultures and races and beliefs and languages, dialects, stories, ideas, art, music, food. A big nest united as a pack, a community, togetherness, our hearts. Home is where the heart is. Thank you.
Ooh, beautiful, strong and beautiful poem. This idea of the whole world as our nest. I love that. And the idea of community, something much needed at the time, really, without judging anyone.
Definitely, yeah.
Would you like to say anything about your story? I mean,
So I moved to the UK when I was 13, and I think, for anyone moving to a different place, it's always really hard, obviously, because it's a massive change and a shock for you. But I think something that made it a lot harder was that I didn't feel like I was very, like, people didn't really want me there. And I felt that. And I think that made it 10 times harder. And that's why it confuses me, because I'm like, why are people like that? You know, like, this is all of our world. Like, we share it together. Why would you make anyone feel uncomfortable or unwanted just because of, you know, where they were born, I suppose.
Yeah, and those are the things that must change, or at least that we are gonna, you know, be committed for them to change. And you're tuning in from Greece or from
Cyprus.
Oh my God! Oh,
Yeah.
wow, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
No problem. Next up, we got Dominika, who will be playing Are We a Unit or a Unity?
Hello. So this goes with a dedication to my mum and grandma, the woman whose love surpasses all else. Jesteśmy jednością czy jednostką? Are we a unit or a unity? I'm a 19-year-old child of a mother who gave birth at 21. She's the child of my grandma who gave birth at 24 and was born in 1954. Nana grew up in Poland in the de-Stalinization period, in the Poland of Gomulka, Gierek, Stalinists, tasked with de-Stalinizing. Martial law. Próbowała dzieci, a tu czołgi na drogach, food coupons. Ja miałam pieniądze, ale po co mi były, jak nic na półkach, żeby to można kupić. Violence and terror. Dobro złem zwyciężaj. Grandma recalls my grandfather leaving for underground solidarity meetings. She recalls not knowing whether he would come back home safe. Yet despite the fear, the worry, and the occasional salty tears, somehow all of them collectively played respective roles in bringing me into a free, liberal, humane Poland. Not one oppressed, depressed, and repressed by the Soviet Union. No, that was all coming to a quick end due to the bravery of men such as my dziadek. The trampled, stepped on, and beaten down Poland somehow grew back up, and it's been growing ever since. Just like me, in questionable directions with different goals and aspirations, given circumstances, and set out agendas under different pressures driven by very specific motivations. My nan was not much older than my mum when she became a mother to my mother. Young motherhood, still very fresh in her own memory, so that when my mum gave birth to me, Nan knew how to do it all and more. She felt my mum's fear and worry, shared her happiness and faith in me. I often feel their bond at this time was the means by which the unity between 3 generations of women started tightening. I came into an interval, a gap, an interlude of both these women's lives, which could have been filled in so many ways otherwise. Yet somehow, despite my unexpected arrival on this earth, they managed to fill the space I now took up with what, for all I know, may be the only thing I ever get to call love. The 3 of us, my babcia, my mama, and I, lived in a small flat in Gdańsk. Grandad, a builder, the Polish stereotype, would only come back home when he had the time. Mama worked long nights as a waitress in bars around town, just so I had all I could ask for as a child. Babcia cared for me, fed me, bathed me, walked me to preschool every morning, where I'd cry on her arm, begging her not to leave me here. She cried with me. She had to leave. She worked too, as a cleaner in a hotel not too far from home, but still too far for me at 3 to grasp entirely. It wasn't easy, this childhood thing, as I recall. Life only gets harder, though. It sure set me up well for solitude. It teaches a child a lot. How it can run before it can walk. How to aim for so much more than that into which she was brought.
Thank you, Dominika. Thank you for sharing that with us. Another bilingual piece. I love that. I love to hear everyone's different languages. I think it adds so much to the story. And this is such a moving piece, you know. You brought to us these strong relationships so vividly, you know, strong women around you.
No, definitely. And yeah, as you say, kind of with being bilingual, I remember coming to London when I was 10, and up until kind of just recently, I would not be able to tell people what my surname was. I was just so embarrassed of even pronouncing it. And it's funny, I look back, so this piece was written for a project I was doing with the National Theatre of Scotland. And yeah, looking back, it genuinely took me going to Scotland to become so aware of my heritage and my family. And this goes out as kind of a thank you, a shout out to Nima, who might be watching, for allowing me to work on this film. Again, this was kind of a project made around Brexit. And yeah, it's really odd how different pressures allow you to look inside yourself. Yeah.
That's amazing. It really is. And let's get more of this, you know, more international, more migrant stories and more multilingual pieces. And this was so strong. Thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you.
Next up, we've got Sandy, who will be performing the poem Malta.
In a land far away in the middle of the sea is my mother there waiting for me, strong and beautiful, but she doesn't do much. She's resigned because she's fought so many battles in the past that she needs a break. But this break's gone on for quite some time, and I get it, I know, healing takes time, it's fine, but I'm breaking. Sitting here waiting, writing these rhymes, and they're not doing anything. I decided to get out. Grab the first rope I found, holding on tight. I caught the first flight to my grandmotherland, another land that wasn't waiting, liberating me to be anything or anyone I wanted to be. And as I stood there, taking in the diversity, I felt the fears I had inherited, the intergenerational traumas I had ingested in, perplexed at how sex was the epitome of evil, how other people and a steeple had boxed me in. I learned to breathe for the first time, but that breathing turned to anger because the repression and control suffocating my soul caused a gaping hole, leaving me defenseless to the whole world. So much beauty I could not behold. But then I realized I could rhyme, I could breathe, I could swim, I could sing, I could see the Mediterranean Sea hypnotizing me, sends me waves of peace. They keep me going, keep me learning, yearning to know more, to understand her journey so that I can understand myself. That keep me going, loving my mother because though she is far from perfect, it's her that made me who I am.
Amazing. Sandy, thank you so much. This is a lovely piece and a lovely performance as well. I could really get this sense of connection to the past and to history, which makes us who we are. It's a lovely, lovely piece.
Thank you.
Would you like to say, you're an NYT Hub subscriber, right?
Yes, I've just discovered the NYT.
Oh my God, you should definitely audition to become an acting member. I think you would do amazingly. Is there anything you would like to tell us about your story of
I guess similar to everyone, and like you said, like I guess I'm in this place where I am between two worlds and my language, so I speak English, but it's weird because I'm not English, and so I feel very in between these two worlds, and I guess it's a work in progress to keep learning about where I fit in between the two. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Sandy. We'll now pass on to Sylvia, who will be performing Rewritten.
Shh. Come on. Listen. What do you hear? If you shut out every little distraction and the million thoughts running through your head every millisecond, what do you hear? Maybe the refrigerator making this quiet buzzing sound. Or count the number of times you hear an ambulance passing through your neighborhood. Seriously though, what's up in London? Or maybe your flatmates betting on the next suitable match on Love Island, not throwing any shade. Or you might be like me. If you listen hard enough, you will hear this quiet little voice that says, how on earth did I end up here? Not specifically in this tiny little apartment that I get to share with a bunch of strangers from all walks of life, but where along this long and sometimes tiresome road I made the wrong turn, I lost my way, when exactly did I agree to settle? Be like all the rest. And then it hit me. No, this is not my story. So I better go and rewrite the ending.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow, the questions in this piece. Wow, so good question. It's so difficult sometimes to just stop and, you know, rethink about our lives and rewrite, as you say. Anything you would like to say about your piece or yourself, your story?
I got inspired by, obviously something that I'm going through, but also listening to what my close friends and family goes through, and it just, I found out that at the beginning I thought that it was just me, like, what is going on, like, am I making a mistake somewhere? But then I listened to my friends and my family, and just like honestly some strangers that I met on the street that we ended up talking, and like everyone is so unsure of where they are, like where they want to go, just dealing with life, and it's just something that is kind of so scary, but something that connects us at the same time. I don't know. This helps. But I feel like everyone can pull themselves together and just decide what we want to, like, get in life, where we want to go, so we can rewrite our stories. So this is what I want to do. Makes sense.
I agree. Of course, it makes sense. And that was beautiful. So thank you so much for sharing it with us.
Thank you so much for listening.
Next up, we got our last performing of the evening to close and wrap up this afternoon full of amazing talent. We have Elena, who will be performing the poem For a Surviving Family.
Thank you. Hands on hands on hands on hands. Yes, tragedies talk to us through the feel of our skin, and our secrets live like religions beneath our flesh, so close to our dreams. These temples appear busy and loud, but it is people who fill them up and assign them meaning. My dust is your skin. I am deeply misshapen, sweet red, and I have no care who offers me the sugar. I narrate myself by the touch of my lovers, the scrubber and the feather. Beneath a bridge, a child plays with a toy train and his mother stares at her empty bowl. Women always seem to be standing alone. She thinks of saying goodbye to her father on a train platform many languages away. How can I describe it? Muddled in the muddly way her muddled genes muddled her to be. Like when I waited in the playground for someone to come and collect me and no one ever came. Oh, the process of the life. This is not poetry. This is people. She leans over and she lets a butterfly out of the window. Thank you.
Beautiful, thank you. Wow, this makes such a beautiful and perfect ending. This is such a sensitive piece, you know. I was very moved even when I read it for the first time. I love how it's written and how it leaves us all the doors open as well for interpretation, as well as connecting with the story. So thank you. Thanks for sharing it with it for that. Sorry. And is there anything you would like to tell us about yourself or your story?
That was a poem that I wrote looking at a photograph of my grandmother who came to Britain when she was 18 on her own without her family. She was a Jewish refugee from Germany, and it was a photograph of her and my dad taken a very long time ago. And so that is a piece I wrote in response to it, which I identify with a lot. The story stays with me, definitely.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And that's the wrap up. Wow, that went really quickly. Thank you so much to everyone who performed today. Like, I can't believe the stories we've heard today. It's incredible. We really heard a really diverse, you know, amount of stories and voices, and I couldn't be more proud. Thank you so much to Amelia and Rose backstage doing all the technicalities for us. You've been amazing. Thank you for such a supportive group. And just thank you for sharing your stories, because that's the most important part, to support each other and to just go through these crazy times together. So thank you to everyone who are tuning to watch. We're going to do like a virtual bow because we don't have the option to do it live, but we can just kind of like clap on from our bedrooms and just say thank you. Yeah, and thank you NYT for giving the space to do this. Bravo everyone, bravo.
Bravo.
Please unmute yourself, feel free to say some words and say thank you.
Well done, guys. Well done, everyone.
Amazing.
So that's a wrap up. We're just in time. So thank you so much, everyone. And well, I guess we'll see you sometime soon or in the next Sunday session. So thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Everyone.
Bye.